So hello, it's Vlogtober, day 15, so it's the 15th of October. Now, I'm going to apologise in advance because today's vlog, it's quite a sad one really. I'll understand if anybody wants to switch off now and not watch this, because I'm going to be talking about pregnancy loss, which is a really, really tough subject to sit and listen to. So if you find that really difficult, then I won't be offended if you switch off and don't want to watch this. If you stay with me, then thank you very much. It's very much appreciated. So you may or may not be aware that October in general is Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. And on the 15th of October at 7 o'clock, wherever in the world you may be, so whatever time your 7 p.m. is, people light a candle for an hour to remember the ones they've lost, you know, to remember the babies they've lost. I have got myself a candle. I've treated myself to a Yankee candle called Soft Blanket, which smells absolutely divine. So I shall be lighting my candle at 7 o'clock tonight. Now you're probably going to be asking why. Well, today, the 15th of October, marks the 5th anniversary of my miscarriage. I thought long and hard about doing this video, but I think we don't talk about it really. It's still a very taboo subject, and given that today is the day when we sort of light the candle and we have the wave of light, as it's called, and it's also the day that, you know, that my miscarriage fell on, I thought it was appropriate really to talk about it. And I'm hoping that by talking about it, that I don't know whether I give comfort to somebody else or help somebody else or just make people more aware of how it feels. So I had known I was pregnant for about a week and a half when I started bleeding. Now, to put it in some context, this was my second pregnancy. With my first pregnancy, I had bled probably around about the same stage. I'd been and got checked. I had a scan. Everything was fine. They could see Oliver. He was like a little kidney bean with a little flicker. They said the flicker was his heartbeat. So when it happened again in my second pregnancy, I thought, oh, it'll be the same as before. You know, I'm having an early bleed because I have what's called an erosion on my cervix, which sometimes bleeds when I have a smear test, and I think was probably the culprit that was bleeding when I was expecting Oliver. So I thought, oh, it'll be the same again. But I think underneath it all, I still had a very much of a nagging doubt. When I got pregnant with Oliver, I knew he was all right. Even when I was bleeding, I kept thinking, no, I'm sure he's fine. This time round, when I got pregnant, right from the moment I did that pregnancy test and got the positive, I knew I was pregnant before I did the test. There was this nagging voice in my head going, something's wrong, something's really wrong. And I just couldn't get it out of my head, but I kept thinking, oh, don't be so silly, I'm sure everything's fine. But I couldn't let go of this little nagging voice. So I went off to see the doctor and I explained, I said, look, I'm bleeding, I bled before, blah, blah, blah. She said, oh, I'm sure it's probably the same as before, but to be on the safe side, we'll make you, you go to the early pregnancy unit, have a scan to see what's going on. So I did. It's like the longest wait of my life in that waiting room. Went in, they did the ultrasound and couldn't see anything. So then they did an internal one, which is just what they did with Oliver, and that's when they saw him, and there was nothing. She was poking around, there was just a void. I could see there was nothing. And then, I don't think she meant to be difficult, the woman, but she said to me, are you sure you're pregnant? Which really hurt. And I was like, yes, I'm sure. I've taken, I don't know how many tests I'd taken at that point. So they got me to do a pregnancy test, and of course, yes, it came up positive. So then they did a blood test, and they said, look, we'll have to get the results. We'll phone you in a couple of days. But for now, just go home and you sit and see what happens. Well, by the next day, it was obvious that I was losing the baby because I started to bleed and bleed and bleed. I had terrible cramps, and I thought, this is it. I knew, you know. And I don't know. It was such a strange feeling. I thought, this is it, I know. And when I went back in a week's time, they said to me, we're really sorry, but, you know, your blood work shows that your HCG levels, which is what they look at, were too low for it to be viable. We're really, really sorry. And they said, look, we don't want to jab more needles on you. We'll just get you to do a pregnancy test, which I did. And of course it was negative because it had all gone by then. I mean, I can't fault the staff at the early pregnancy unit. They were so lovely. Oh, apart from the woman who scanned me, because she was a bit weird. But the nurses who I dealt with, they were so sweet. They were so, so lovely. And I don't envy them that kind of job, having to deal with women coming in who are absolutely terrified of what's going on, and then discovering that, you know, you've lost your baby. And it's a funny old thing. At the time when it happened, I don't think I allowed myself the time to grieve properly, because I had Oliver, who was 3, and I remember the day after I lost the baby, after the main sort of miscarriage had happened, going out to meet my mum and have a coffee, and it felt weird to be doing all these things, but I thought, I've just got to go, I've got to carry on, I've got to, you know, keep going. And Oliver was a little monkey, and he wandered off in John Lewis, and this bloke rather pompous says, "Is this child with somebody?" I said, "Well, he's mine, he's with me, it's fine, he's just being difficult." And you know, I really wanted to shout at this man, "Please don't, I've just lost a baby." And I said it to my mum. My mum was like, "No, just calm down." And I was like, "I can't calm down, I'm really angry." And I went through all these different stages. I would really get so angry and want to shout at the world, you know, and like people would say, "Oh, I'm sure it was for the best, there was obviously something wrong." And I felt like saying, I don't care about that. This isn't fair. I'm really angry and upset. That doesn't help me. And I think that's the thing when you lose a baby. You don't know how you're going to feel. You sort of see other people. It's always one of those things that happens to somebody else. You don't think it's going to happen to you, and you don't know how you're going to react. And I didn't know how I was going to react. And it's funny as well, because it's such an early loss. I felt, in a weird way, it was almost like I felt that, could I grieve? Was I allowed to grieve? Was I supposed to grieve? How was I supposed to feel? Because some people get quite flippant. And they're like, "Oh, well, you can just go and try again." Well, no, yes, of course you can. But that doesn't take away from the fact that you've lost a baby. You know, even if it was just cells. And you get this horrible term of like chemical pregnancy, which made me feel awful, like almost like I'd imagined it. And I was like, well, no, I didn't imagine it. There was something in there. And you've got nothing. There's nothing to grieve. There's nothing, you know, you've got nothing. And it's horrible. It's like you get to be pregnant for a week and a half, and then somebody comes along and pulls the rug out from underneath you, and you're just, I don't know what to do. It's like you're just empty. It's like, what am I supposed to feel? And that's how I went through feeling, I think. And I put a brave face on for everybody else. I had some time off work because I got myself in a right old tears, and I get really panicky and anxiety. And it was just really difficult. And of course, you know, I had to keep going because I had Oliver. And I think that's another thing. I think because I had Oliver, a lot of people were like, "Well, you've already got a child, so what's your problem?" But I felt saying, well, you wouldn't say that to somebody who'd maybe had 2 children and lost one. You wouldn't be like, "Oh, well, it doesn't matter that you've lost one, you've still got your other one." You know, and it was almost like it invalidated how I felt. I wasn't allowed to grieve because, you know what, you've got a child, it's fine. And yes, I totally get it. I get where people are coming from, because there are women out there who can't have children, or who've had so many miscarriages and still haven't got that longed for baby. And I can't even begin to imagine how that must feel. So I know how lucky I am to have Oliver, and don't ever think I'm not, you know, because I know, especially because Oliver was a prem baby. I don't know how many of you know this. He was born 9 weeks early at 31 weeks, weighing 3.5 pounds. And he had no sucking reflex, so he was tube fed literally every hour on the hour, like a tiny amount of milk when he was first born. So I don't know what it's like to have a full-term pregnancy and a full-term birth, and to have all that lovely bonding, and to give birth to your baby, then they'd be handed to you and you can have a go at breastfeeding straight away. No. I gave birth to Oliver. He was whipped away, stuck on a table, checked over, bundled up in a blanket, and only because the midwife said was he given back to me very briefly for me to say hello to him. Then he was gone and in an incubator, and I didn't hold him properly until about 24 hours later. So that's my experience of giving birth, and that's all I've got. And I'm grateful for that, don't get me wrong. But, you know, it's not how you plan to have a baby when you have a prem one. It's a bit of a shocker. It's not exactly what you think it's going to be. And obviously now he's a huge 8-year-old. You'd never know that my son was prem. Goodness me, he's massive. It's going to be towering over me soon, I think. So, yeah, I've gone through a lot of emotions over the years. Emotions of feeling that it wasn't valid. for me to be upset because I've already got a child. It wasn't valid for me to be upset because it was such an early loss. And then a couple of weeks ago, I think it was, I was coming home on the bus, and I think an article popped up on my Facebook timeline. I think that's where I saw it, from Mumsnet. And it was somebody writing about miscarriage who already had a child. I think she'd miscarried her first one, then gone on to have a second one. And she was talking about it, you know, she was standing in the kitchen washing up and her child was running around. And she said, you suddenly get this moment of feeling that there should have been two of them running around. And she went on so eloquently, probably more eloquently than I'm doing this today, to explain how it kind of feels that although you've got that longed for child, you still remember and miss the one that you lost. And like me, I think she, I don't know if she'd had an early loss, I can't remember now. And it was the same kind of things, and I could just, I identified with this article so much, and I suddenly thought, that's it. You know, I'm not going mad. I am right to feel like I feel. There is nothing wrong with how I feel. I think at the time I just put a brave face on and kept going because I had to think about Oliver. And years on down the line, now sometimes it still catches me occasionally. You know, I remember, I mean, Oliver would say things to me, bless him, and he was only 3, and I remember having to explain to him that I was, you know, that Mummy had lost the baby, and he was just like, oh, okay, because when children are 3 years old, everything's very black and white to them, so it's like, oh, okay, that's fine, you know, just carry on then. But now he's older, he has said to me a couple of times, he said, you were pregnant again, weren't you, Mummy, after you had me? I said, yes, I was. He said, and you lost the baby, didn't you? I said, yes, I did. He's like, oh, right, okay. And you can see him thinking about it and sort of processing it. And he's occasionally said to me, oh, you know, I would have liked a brother or sister. And that, oof, that kills me occasionally. And I'm like, oh, well, you know. I said, well, we would too, Oliver, but, you know. And he's like, yeah. Okay, Mum. And it's really sad. And I feel sorry for him sometimes being an only child, because I've grown up with an older sibling and my husband is the eldest of 3. I always wanted to have more than one. But, you know, life doesn't work out the way you plan it at all. Because obviously I didn't have Oliver until I was nearly 32. And then I was 35 when I got pregnant again. Of course, now I'm 40. And it's like over the years, time just seems to have slipped away. And after I lost the baby, eventually my mum said to me, come on, she said, why don't we think about, you know, you think about planning a wedding, because we've been engaged for donkey's years by that point. And I thought, yes, I thought I need something. I thought I've got to have something that will take my mind off this that I can focus on, because we sort of decided that maybe having another one wasn't such a good idea, because there were lots of things going on with where my husband worked at that time, and lots of things have changed. 5 years down the line, we're in a completely different position to we were then. So I planned the wedding, and that kept me going and going and going. But the weird thing was, as soon as we got married, it was like, boom, I just hit rock bottom. I remember feeling awful. In the week after we got married, I was just like, it was like I was really empty again. Like, there's just nothing for me to think about. And I could feel those old thoughts and feelings resurfacing. And this was before I started blogging. And I think maybe in some ways that's probably as well why I started to blog. Because I needed something else, something to channel my thoughts into, to keep my mind active and stop me sort of dwelling too much, I suppose. So yeah, it's a funny old thing. It's very difficult. I still now find it odd, or find it hard when, especially people of sort of round about my age, announce that they're pregnant, or maybe announce they're having a second one. I get that, and I'm always the first to congratulate people. I'm always so happy when someone says they're expecting babies, because I love babies. They're just so cute. How can you not love a baby? You know, I'll always congratulate people. And a friend of mine had a baby earlier this year, and she's just to die for. She's so gorgeous. And I was like, when you bring her in, I've got to have a munch. You know, I love them to death. Oh, it's lovely. But it hurts sometimes, because you can't help but feel, I wish it was me. I wish that was me. And it will always, you know, I think for the time being, that will always sort of go through my mind in some ways. I'll have that little bit of moment of thinking, oh, you know, I'd love that to be me again. But I think I've got to make peace with the fact that it won't be, because, excuse me, where are my tissues? Because, you know, I've reached an age now where I'm obviously the main wage earner, so having another baby right now would be logistically quite a bit of a nightmare. Plus, I don't live in a very big house, so there's all that kind of considerations and finances and everything and all that malarkey. Sometimes I just wish I could say, oh, look at it, you know. But life doesn't work like that, does it? You know, I do have to think about these things, and I have to think about the impact of another one now, obviously on Oliver. So, yeah, there's all of that, and I think I've got to make my peace with it. And I think 5 years on, I mean, you can see, obviously, it still upsets me occasionally. Oh, dear. Let's hold it together. It does. I don't think about it all the time. But it's really hard because when I first lost the baby, I remember having, you know, I mean, I've said I had anxiety. I would see things out of the corner of my eye. Excuse me. I would see somebody sometimes standing somewhere and I'd look again and there'd be no one there, and it used to really freak me out. I would wake up in the night having night terrors, because I suffer with night terrors anyway when I'm stressed, and I'd wake up looking for the baby. I'd go running into Oliver's room to check he was alright, then I'd be like, where's the other one? Where's the other one? And then I'd come to and realise, well, there isn't another one. And then I remember walking through my living room and going out to my back garden because we were doing some cooking out there, and there was Oliver and his dad, and I suddenly thought, it's just so weird, there should be another one, there should be someone else. This feels weird, I feel this all feels incomplete, like there's somebody missing all the time, and that's really odd feeling. I hate it as well. I still to this day will dream that I'm pregnant, and then I'll wake up and I'll realise I'm not, and it takes a few seconds, and then I feel the sort of despondency come over me, and I think, no, I have to push it to one side, you know, I have to let go. And that's really difficult. And I think this year as well has been weird, because if I'd had a successful pregnancy, they would have been 4, they would have been starting school, they were due to be born in June. So they would have just been starting school. So seeing all the children on Facebook going to school this year, and I kept thinking that should have been, you know, that should have been me. I should have had another one going to school, starting reception and all that, going through all that again. Of course, I haven't. So, yeah, you get to little milestones. I mean, obviously, every year I get to the due date and I think, well, they would have been this age and this age. And I don't think that will probably ever leave me. I know that somebody once said to me that the problem is that you don't forget. Other people move on around you, but you don't ever forget. And also I don't think people always know what to say, because it is difficult to know what to say when someone's lost a baby, but I've had some things said to me over the years that have been less than helpful. I had one like, well, at least you know you can get pregnant, which was true. Yes, I know I can get pregnant. I've had 2 pregnancies. One ended 9 weeks earlier and one ended in miscarriage. So yes, I know I can get pregnant, but that doesn't help. That doesn't comfort you, because you could say that to a woman who's maybe had 3 miscarriages and she'd be like, yeah, I know I can get pregnant, but I can't seem to sustain a pregnancy. You know, it's a bit of a thoughtless thing to say. I've been called selfish for only having 1 child. That was really hard to hear, and it's not, you know, it's not a deliberate choice to only have 1 child, and even if it was a deliberate choice to have only 1 child, that's my choice and my choice alone. You know, and then people often say, before you have children, when are you going to have a baby? When are you going to have a baby? Especially when you get to your 30 and you still haven't had one. But then when you have one, people constantly ask you when you're going to have another one. And the amount of people that have asked me over the years, oh, how old's Oliver now? And I'll say how old he is. Oh, don't you think it's time you had a second one? Oh, you know, and I got so cross one day with somebody. I said, well, I got pregnant again and I lost the baby, so please don't. I thought, you know nothing of my life and what I might have been through. So yeah, it's really difficult, and I think you hear that statistic that 1 in 4 pregnancies ends at an early stage. Some women don't even know they're pregnant, because obviously now our pregnancy tests can tell us so much earlier, and it's a horrible statistic, and you don't like to think that you're one of those 1 in 4s. And it doesn't make it any less easy to contend with, because people will throw that around and go, well, you know, 1 in 4 ends early, la, la, la. I'm thinking, well, that's lovely. That still doesn't make me feel any better. Just being a statistic somewhere, thanks very much, you know. An early loss, I think, is hard to come to terms with because there's nothing, you know, obviously you've got nothing to... sorry, there's a massive bumblebee flying at my window and it's distracting me. Sorry. You've got nothing to hold on to, you know, it's all just gone and you've got to just move on and keep living, which isn't easy to do sometimes. So, yes, it's difficult. I think I remember at the time having to go into nursery and tell them that I lost the baby. Just in case Oliver says anything, you know, and they were like, we're so sorry, and I was just in floods of tears, you know. And there was another mum who had found out she was pregnant about the same time I had. And she came over to me a few weeks later, not knowing, and said, how's it all going? I said, well, you know, I've lost the baby, and I felt so awkward. And she was like, oh, I'm really sorry. I said, no, it's okay, thank you, you know. And then I had to watch her go through her pregnancy. And that was really difficult. And it's really hard. I mean, people close to you announce they're pregnant in the years afterwards, as happy as you are for them, and I'll be happy for anybody who gets pregnant because I just think, you know, it's such a lovely thing to happen to you. You always get that little twinge of, oh, and it'll catch you again. Well, it certainly catches me anyway. It really does. So yeah, that's my story. I'm sorry it's such a sad one today. I really am. But I just think it's good to talk about it because we don't. We really, really don't. We sort of sweep these things under the carpet. And when you're going through it, you can feel... It just makes you feel really quite alone because you feel like you can't talk about it. And sometimes you need to be able to. You need to be able to get it out there and let go of it. So, you know... And I'd just like to say thank you to everybody because a lot of people who know me personally have sent me really lovely messages and they said, well, we know it's a difficult month. So thank you to everybody who has done that. But I've got a very particular thank you that I have to do. Yesterday, I was sat at home feeling absolutely dreadful. I was feeling really, really poorly. Sat on my sofa feeling very, very sorry for myself. And I heard my letterbox go. And through my letterbox came, I'm going to do it this way, this letter here. I was like, oh, who's writing to me? And I've had, this couldn't have come at a nicer time. And I've had a lovely, lovely letter from Steph. Steph, I've mentioned Steph in my vlogs before. She vlogs and blogs over at Seeing Spots. And to have, I'm going to start off again. To have somebody take the time, excuse me, to write me a letter when they know that this is a difficult month. It's really, really lovely. So Steph, if you're watching this, oh, stop crying now. Thank you so much for sending me this letter. You honestly don't know what this has meant to me. I'm not going to read it out because it's private, but it's really, really helped. So thank you very much, Steph. Love you to bits for doing that for me. Especially in this day and age, because I think we've lost the art of letter writing. I don't write letters anywhere near much as I used to anymore. So that was lovely. So thank you very much, Steph. So I've got to say a big thank you to you because that's really, really important at the moment. That's really helped. So anyway, I'm going to compose myself now and get ready to say goodbye. So I just want to also send my love and thoughts to anybody who's ever been through this or is going through something like this at the moment. My thoughts are with you because I know it's really difficult. Like I say, I shall be, oh dear, compose myself. I shall be lighting my candle at, oh, get it around the right way, at 7 o'clock tonight. I may Instagram it with the hashtag. If you see the hashtags tonight, Wave of Light, that is what it's for. It's for the pregnancy and infant loss awareness. If you have sat and watched this video of me rambling and getting a bit upset, then I really do appreciate it because this is quite a hard thing to talk about and it's probably a hard thing to sit and listen to me saying. So, oh, blow my nose. So thank you ever so much for sitting and listening to me. Like I say, if you've ever gone through this or you're going through something like this right now, then my thoughts and my love are with you. I'm going to leave links to anything underneath because there is actually another organisation I should just quickly mention called Saying Goodbye who are brilliant, who do little services and things you can go to. They run them all around the country. I think they're a charity. I will leave their details in the description down below, and I shall try and find the articles that I've read if they help anybody. They are hard to read, but they are worth reading if you're going through something like this, because it just makes you feel like you're not alone. I shall leave the links to those for you as well. Anyway, I hope... I will be back tomorrow with a much more upbeat video, I promise. It won't be like this tomorrow. I won't be sat here with tears. So like I say, thank you so much if you sat and watched this. And I'll see you all tomorrow for day 16. Thank you. Bye-bye.